Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day, though cold. And today I want to talk about a few things. So, what we're trying to do is not identify with a lot of things that we identify with. That's the whole point of this teaching. And part of that is your context. So, what is your context? Well, if you think of the word like they do use it in the Bible, it means what's around you. What's around you? That's it. Okay? And that means everything that's impinging on your person is your context. Okay? Whether you live in a city or the country, whether you work in an office or a farm, and so on and so forth. And that context is, as far as you're concerned, part of you. Okay? Which is fine. That's what life is. But it doesn't have to be that way. Now, this context is part of the person that you are. And we need to step out of the context, okay, in order to be free. And that means not necessarily moving or going someplace. It's a mental thing. It means stepping away from yourself. And that is what it's all about. Now, I've talked about a lot of stuff on here, and this is pretty much the same thing. I mean, we need to figure out a way to step off from who we think we are. That is the problem, is who we think we are. Okay? And that's part of our context. We need to shift away from that and not let it be a part of who we think we are. Okay? And that's all there is to it. How do we do this? Well, for one thing, by realizing that it's not you. None of this stuff is you. Where you live, what your name is, what your history is, all that is part of your context. Okay? And in order to understand, say, a Bible verse, we need to know what the context is. Okay? And the same thing is true of you. In order to understand yourself, you need to figure out your own context. You need to identify the context that you're in. That is how we must free ourselves. We cannot free ourselves from this context unless we have identified it and accepted it. Acknowledge that that is who we think we are. But it's not who we are. It's just the context of our person. Okay, so, and what that means is looking at our own behavior, looking at our thoughts, our emotions, looking at how we see the world. We see the world in a specific way that is just us. Just your way of seeing the world is completely different from the next guy, and so on and so forth. Okay? And so that's part of your context too. And we need to let it go. Okay? Yes, you were born in Cincinnati or Kentucky or Massachusetts or wherever you were born, but it's not you. You are a soul, and you are in a life form. This life form is not you. As long as you believe that the life form is you, then you're going to suffer. That's the way it is. And that's part of your karma, what you have to do on this earth. Okay, now, what that means is there's no choice. There's no choice. You have to suffer or you have to get free. That's the way it is. If you're not going to get free, then you are suffering. Okay? And you cannot unchoose that because that's just the way it is. Okay? So, how you suffer, what exactly you're going through, that's part of your context too. Okay? For instance, are you sad? Okay? Do you feel sadness in your life? That's part of your context too. And we need to accept it. Not try to fight against it. Not try to minimize it. Not try to take a pill to make it go away. Because that is all part of fighting it. Whenever you fight something, what happens? It doesn't go away. That's what happens. Okay? And that's just the way it is. So in order to get progress on the spiritual path, we have to accept what is. And that includes accepting our own context. And we feel very personal about our context. And we think it's everything. Okay? But it's not. It's just the context. The context of our lives is not part of us. Okay? Because it just isn't. Because it's just an accident. It's in a way, it's an illusion because you think it's important. You think it's good, whatever you think about it. Okay? But that's not necessarily going to make it better. What is going to make it better is accepting and acknowledging that this is what it is. That's it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have good things in life or anything else. What I am saying is that as long as you are clinging to the situation of your birth, the situation of your life, okay, then you're going to have more suffering. That's just the way it is. Whatever amount of suffering you've had, there's going to be more. That's just the way life is. So, look, it's all about seeing what's going on in you. Okay? Seeing what your context is. Okay? What it is that makes you who you think you are. Which isn't really you at all, but in order to get rid of this who we think we are context, then we have to accept. And that's just means to do what is necessary. Okay? As long as we fight against this context and try to make it something it's not, which is what we do, then we're going to suffer. That is the way of it. I don't want it to be that way, but I have no choice. And neither do you. That's just the way it is. Okay? So, start out with accepting. Okay? Let the acceptance settle over you. Your context is not important. Yes, you were born in a certain place. Yes, you were born at a certain time. All this stuff happened to you. But it's not who you are. As long as we identify with all this stuff, okay, we can't get free. And that means we have to let it go. I'm not saying that that's going to be easy, but it's part of what awakening means. As long as we're clinging to this context of our life, we're going to have unhappiness. And the way to let it go is to accept it. Just look at one tiny portion of your life. Okay? Whatever it may be. You were born in a coal mining town. And you watched your dad work in the coal mine, and then he slowly crumbled away from health issues from coal mining. Okay, and that affected you in a certain way and made you the way you are, right? That's what you think. But that's not you. We have to accept that. Because you are a soul. Okay? And that includes everything that is going on in your life. Okay? Not just the past, but the present and the future as well. Okay? And that's what it's all about, is trying to figure out what is important. Okay? Is it important to make money? To some extent, yes. Is it important to have power? No. Is it important to have fame? No. None of that stuff is going to matter in the end. It's all going to get washed away like tears in the rain. Okay? So, instead of clinging to those tears, which we do, and we think that that's what life is about, that is what we're doing here. But it's not. Life is about having freedom. Not outer freedom, but inner freedom. If you're in jail and you're watching this, even though you may get out of jail, okay, when you get out of jail, you're still going to be in the prison of your mind that was constructed for you by your parents and constructed for you by the world. And if you think there aren't any guards in this prison, then you're wrong, because the guards are your attachments. That's what's keeping you in. And as long as you're holding on to these attachments, okay, you cannot escape. Okay? I know this is hard. I know it's difficult to accept what is, but it must be done. Or you're going to suffer. Okay? So, how do we let go? By accepting what is. Okay? And that means really accepting it, not just partway accepting it. And I know that can take time. That can take a lot of time. But who you are is what's important. Everything else isn't. Your name isn't important. Your job titles, where you live, what you do, what your parents were, how you were raised, all that stuff is insignificant. Okay? Because it's all part of the person, which is fake. The fake identity. Okay? And what we need to do is to accept that that's what it is. As long as we think it's, what's important, then we're missing the boat. We're not going to see the truth, and the truth shall set you free, as many a Christian will tell you. Okay? And the reason that the truth sets you free is because you have to accept it. Okay? You accept the truth. Okay? And that acceptance allows you to have some freedom, some inner freedom, along with inner peace, joy, love, the love of God. So, try to just look at a tiny portion of your life, just one little thing, and try to accept it. Okay? Let's say you're paranoid. That paranoia is based in fear, and that fear is based in separateness. You think you're separate. You think you are this body, which is separate from every other body and every other thing. And so, therefore, you're afraid. Okay? I know it sounds difficult to understand this fear thing, but that's what it is. Okay? You're afraid, you're anxious, paranoid, all that stuff stems from the fear. The fear of not being part of God. The fear of being alone. And that fear is very powerful and can drive you to do what you have to do. And that's what the ego uses it for, in order to make you do what it wants, which is most likely to make you unhappy. Anyway, so that's how that works. And in order to get beyond the fear, in order to get beyond the emotional storms, in order to get beyond that constant shattering in your head of the ego. You have to accept what is, and we have to let it go. For instance, your name's Mike Smith. That's what you've been called since the beginning. Okay? Your mom called you that, your dad called you that, so on and so forth. And legally, that's your name. Okay? But that is not who you are. Okay? Yes, you identify yourself by that when you meet somebody. You say, oh, I'm Mike Smith. Right? But that is just a label that was placed on you by society. And as long as you think that's who you are, that you are a label, then you become a thing. Okay? Which a thing is, generally speaking, an object. This language that we speak is object-oriented, even if it's French or German or Chinese, Spanish. It's all object-oriented because that's the way our minds, we have conceptual minds. Concepts become objects. And if you don't want to be an object, which, if you believe it, that your name is who you are, then believe it or not, you are an object, okay? Because you are called by a label. That's what it is, okay? Yeah, I know, maybe in the past, your dad made, copper stuff, and so now his name is something having to do with copper. Or maybe he made buckets, and that's why your name is Cooper. Or maybe he made iron implements, that's why your name is Smith. All that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is accepting what is. I know this is hard, okay, to let go of a name. I still have a name legally, that's my name. And so, therefore, my driver's license has my name on it. But I know it's not me. I know that's not who I am. I know that that is not my identification. Okay? My identification is with the soul. Okay? And that's what your identification needs to be with too. As long as you're continuing to identify with all this other stuff. Okay? With the clouds in the sky. The sun is shining, but we can't see it because of the clouds. And that sun is God, and he's trying to shine his love on you. But you can't see it because of all these clouds that your mind has put in the way. Because your ego doesn't want you to feel God's love. Your ego wants you to suffer. That's the way it is. Or win. One or the other. And it goes about doing that through decisions, actions, that it makes you do by nudging you this way or nudging you that way. Okay? And it uses groups and ideologies and all sorts of other things in order to do that. Okay? That's just the way that is. Anyway, so try and just look at some part of your life. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be small. And try to accept that that is what it is. Are you fearful? Accept that you think you're separate. That's it. That's where fear comes from. That's where sadness comes, because you think you're separate. You think you're alone. Even if you have a family around you, you're in a different body from everybody else, which means you're alone. Okay? Plenty of people have felt lonely in a crowd of relatives, because that is the baseline lie that you're told. I mean, like, for instance, when we're young, they tell us all these lies, okay? In order to help control us, okay? And these lies get put into our programming and we believe them. Okay? Like that you're just one person. Okay? I know that seems like a pretty crappy lie, but that's the lie they tell us. You just one. You can't do anything because you're just you. Little old you. Okay? Or maybe they say that, whatever. Okay? And we believe it. We buy it. And everything reinforces that too, because the body, the sensations, the experiences. But you know what? You're not experiencing everything. Everything is happening on its own. The experience is experiencing, not the person. I know that's hard to understand too, but that's the way it is. Everything that's happening is just happening. It's not being done. It's just happening. It's like your heart beating, or your lungs breathing, or your blood pumping through your veins. It's a happening, and that's what it is. And if you feel like you're making things happen, then you're wrong. Okay? Experiencing something means you're experiencing it for the universe. The universe wants to experience things. And that's what you're doing. You're experiencing for the universe. You are not experiencing anything. The experiencing is happening to you. Which, if you understand what that means is that you're not responsible. Okay? And that's another big lie. You're responsible for your own life. Okay? But the experiences that are happening are not you. They're just experiencing experiences. Okay? It's not like... it's really hard to describe. Okay. Let's say you're driving down the street and your car starts to skunk out. And you pull over to the side of the road and you get out of your car and you pull open the hood. Okay? And somebody drives by and throws a half full soda out the window and it hits you. Okay? That's an experience. That's a sense experience. The coldness of the drink, the watery soda all over your face. Okay? How you see that experience is your context. You can experience it one way by saying, oh, I'm offended, I'm upset, and you have a shit fit on the side of the road, and so on and so forth. Okay? Or you can experience it another way. This is what happened. This is nothing to do with me. I am not experiencing this. The experience is just happening. And as you get upset, as you get offended, as you have a fit over what happened, that brings you into more suffering. But if you can just accept that this isn't happening to you, that you're not doing any of it, it's just happening because that's what life does. Life happens. Just like an apple tree, apples. And the world peoples. That's just the way it is. And this illusion that we're under, that we are the source of what we experience, is just wrong. Okay? I know it's hard to see it that way, but the fact of the matter is all of your experiences are just things that happened. It's got nothing to do with you. That's it. Okay? It's not your responsibility. It's not your fault. It's just something that happened, and you happened to be there at the same time. How we see everything is part of our context. How we react to everything is part of our context. We need to step away from our context. We need to shift away from the way we see the world, the way we see everything, because it's a trap. Okay? You don't want to be upset, do you? You don't want to be having a shit fit, do you? No. Okay? You get all heated and you get all cursy and so on and so forth, and it's not a pleasant experience, is it? No, of course not. Okay? But if you react to that soda being thrown in your face, okay, and you start getting upset and offended by the fact that somebody threw that in your face, then you are going to be unhappy. I mean, the expression of emotions and all that is good, but not if it's just part of your everyday life, not if it's constantly going on. And it is constantly going on because you're constantly reacting to stimulus. We are stimulus response machines. And this stimulus is constantly coming in. It's constantly impinging on us, and we are constantly reacting to it. And how you react is part of the context of your life. Okay? And that's where some of your unhappiness is coming from. Some of the suffering is in your reactions. And we need to accept that that is just the context, okay? Not the actual words, okay? Like the Word of God. There's the Word of God, and then there's the context of the verse, okay? And we need to just shift away from that context, okay? And that will free us from these reactions which are going to make us unhappy, okay? If you get pissed off, if you get upset, if you get feeling hurt, that hurt is going to transfer over to other people because the next person you meet is going to get an earful. And you get home and you're pissed off, and your son is there and your wife is there, and you treat them badly, and they have suffering too. So the suffering just spreads out, okay, from having this reaction. Try to accept that this reaction isn't good for you. Try to accept that this reaction is part of the context of your life, which doesn't have to be. Just step away from the context. Step away from the stimulus. Don't let the stimulus run you. The stimulus is trying to run you. Okay? Because that's part of the ego's plan. Okay? It is what it is. But all I'm trying to say is try to accept that this is not you. This stimulus is not you. It's something your brain is doing. And it's something the world is doing. Okay? And you are not your brain or your body. I know we say that this is my body and this is my brain and this is my this and that, but that's not who you are. Okay? This is simply the life form that you happen to be inhabiting. Okay? And it's not important. I'm not saying that you should just commit suicide because your body's not important. Yes, of course, you have to keep your body in good shape. But it's not important enough to care about it. It's not important enough to make it part of who you think you are. I mean, I totally understand how you might feel about this, but you have to just separate and dislocate yourself from this obsession or illusion of that this is me. Okay? These are my limbs. This is my body. This is who I am. It's not who you are. You just think it is. Anyway, I guess that's about enough of this talk. The clock on the wall is telling me it's time to go. I love you all because you're me. There's no difference between me and you and anyone. We're all one thing. And that includes everything that's alive. And that's all there is to it. Okay? You can believe something else if you want to. I'm not trying to make you believe anything. But really, if you really look at the way it feels when you go into the woods, or the way it feels when you're biking down a mountain or snowboarding, that's because you're receiving feedback from the life forms around you and from God through those life forms. Well, anyway, please comment if you have any questions about anything I've said. If anything I have said hasn't been clear, question me on it, and I'll be make a video about your question and the solution to it. I just want to be able to help you if possible. Okay? And please share as well if you can. All right, well, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day and a great life.